It's hard to imagine a time without skyscrapers, cars, cameras, or the internet, but every single person on the planet has distant relatives who were alive in the Middle Ages. The Middle Ages were a simpler time, and also a harder time. From technology to warfare, travel, and entertainment, here's what every aspect of life was like in medieval times. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. Feudalism was the dominant social and economic system during the Middle Ages. Society was structured in a hierarchical manner with kings, nobles, knights, and peasants. This rigid social structure determined a person's role and status in society. Gender roles were strictly defined, and social mobility was generally limited, with individuals born into a particular class often remaining in that class. The economy was primarily agrarian. The majority of people worked in agriculture, and the manor system was prevalent. Peasants worked the land owned by nobles in exchange for protection and a share of the harvest. The growth of trade led to the development of market towns, with merchants exchanging goods and services in marketplaces. Religion played a central role in medieval life. The Catholic Church was a powerful institution in medieval Europe, and its influence extended to various aspects of daily life. The Church controlled education, morality, and had significant political power. Military orders were established to protect pilgrims in the Holy Land and to combat perceived threats to Christendom. Technological advancements were limited compared to the present day. There were no printing presses, and books were handwritten, making them rare and expensive. Early mechanical clocks, driven by weights and gears, appeared in medieval European monasteries and towns. The knowledge of the time was largely confined to religious institutions. Medical knowledge was very limited and often based on superstitions. Herbal medicine was a primary form of treatment. Monks and herbalists cultivated gardens with various plants for medicinal purposes. Surgical procedures were performed, but they were often crude and lacked effective anesthesia. There were various forms of alternative medicine, often rooted in folklore and superstition, like amulets, charms, and talismans, believed to have protective properties against diseases. Communication was slow and relied on letters and messengers using the relay system, which involved a series of horseback riders stationed at intervals who would carry messages swiftly over long distances. Long-distance travel was arduous, with most people spending their entire lives in the same region. In urban areas, town criers would make public announcements in marketplaces, providing news, declarations, and other important messages to the local population. Entertainment was simpler, often centered around local festivals, fairs, and communal events. Music and storytelling were popular forms of entertainment. Traveling troupes of actors and performers moved from town to town, often performed in marketplaces or open spaces and attracted audiences from diverse backgrounds. Archery, wrestling, and various ball games were common recreational activities. The legal system was decentralized and often based on local customs. Trial by ordeal was a common method of determining guilt or innocence. This involved subjecting the accused to a physically challenging task or a painful experience, with the belief that divine intervention would protect the innocent. Common ordeals included trial by water or trial by combat. The majority of people lived in simple, thatched roof houses. Castles were the residences of the nobility, while peasants, who constituted the majority of the population, lived in small villages. In regions prone to conflict, towns often had walls and fortifications to protect the inhabitants, with houses built close together, and the streets were narrow and winding. Warfare was frequent, and military service was a key obligation of the nobility. Lords, vassals, and knights swore oaths of loyalty to higher-ranking nobles, providing military service in exchange for land and protection. Swords, axes, maces, and lances were common melee weapons, but bows, crossbows, and later, firearms changed the dynamics of ranged warfare. Clothing reflected social status. Sumptuary laws were enacted to regulate the types of fabrics, colors, and styles that individuals of different social classes were allowed to wear. Nobility often had the privilege of wearing luxurious fabrics such as silk, velvet, and fur, while commoners were restricted to coarser materials like wool and linen. Education was limited and primarily accessible to the elite. Monasteries were centers of learning, preserving and transmitting knowledge through handwritten manuscripts. Monks were responsible for teaching, and education focused on religious studies, Latin, and basic arithmetic. Teaching methods were primarily based on rote memorization and oral instruction.